is the Wrestlebread Podcast, bringing you the latest news, recaps, and analysis of AEW and WWE. Get the unique perspective from a wrestling fan of over 25 years. Here's your host, Jaydee.
What's going on, guys? This is Jaydee, and this is episode 126 of the Wrestlebread Podcast. So as you saw, I had took somewhat of a break. I had a family emergency, and so I wasn't really able to stream last week to really give my predictions for Extreme Rules. Sorry if I sound a little off. It seems like I am catching a cold. My kids were sick a little earlier this week, and it seems like because they got into mommy's face, now I have caught on, and that's life. A lot of wrestling has happened since then. We had Extreme Rules this past weekend. We had AEW's Grand Slam last week. We also have the draft coming up, and we still have the continuation of NXT 2.0. So my notes were like all over the place because they were actually notes from last week. Except for what happened with Grand Slam. I'll start off with the Grand Slam. First of all, it was a very good show. And there was people who were like somewhat, not really upset, but they had an issue with the fact that this was quote unquote for free, which it has to be free. AEW is in the position where they have to do these type of shows because they are charging $50 for their pay-per-views. Although their pay-per-views occur every 3 months, it's still $50 that you got to shell out at once versus having to pay $6 for Peacock, and we get what we pay for with that. So for them to put out something like this to kind of show like, hey, this is the type of things that you can get for free, or you can get when the next pay-per-view comes out, I'm fine with it. You want to give me something of this quality for free, I'll take it. The only downside when they do things like this is because it's hard to sustain, especially the fact that they are still like building up their talent, and it's kind of difficult to kind of keep at such a high for a very long time. So when you tune in to this past week, Dynamite, of course, is not up to par the way it was for Grand Slam. Now, they're coming to Philly next Wednesday, and I don't know if I'm going. I would love to go, but I don't know if I will be going. Depends on how I feel. We'll see. But AEW Grand Slam was a great show. It was a great show. And another thing, too, with people complaining about the fact that of how it was, this is how wrestling was back in the Attitude Era. Now, there was some low points on Raw and Smackdown, of course, but like you would have The Rock and Triple H feuding each other. You would have these type of matches on Raw and Smackdown, and those were for free. And that was back when they would do the pay-per-views and you had to pay for them every month. So for AEW to turn around and do something like this, like I said, I don't mind it at all. First of all, they started off with a bang with, I would say, one of the best matches, definitely match of the year. Of course, it's like, it's going to be very hard to top. That cage match comes very close. But I would have to say, Bryan Danielson versus Kenny Omega was exactly what we thought it would be, plus more. I think this match lasted for like a good 30 minutes. And it didn't feel like, you know how when you see a 30-minute match and it feels like 30 minutes? and it's like, okay, like, all right, let's move on. It didn't feel like that with this, mainly because the crowd was just so hot throughout the whole thing. I have to give it to AEW fans. When they are live, you can hear them, you can chant. And I think it's a smart thing because I see that with what AEW does right now. Right now, they're going to the wrestling shows, where the hardcore fans will come out and the ones who will chant and things like that. Like, it's a difference between what we see with AEW versus what we see in WWE. Because I've gone to a lot of WWE shows, and I'll be honest, there's a lot of kids in the crowd. It's mainly the adults that are there are parents who pretty much were dragged to the show because of their kids. Now, it has their moments, you know, where the crowd is like hot, depending on the city they go to. But WWE tends to travel to a lot of different cities, and they just want the casual crowd. So you don't get the the red hot crowd during the whole night like we have saw for AEW Grand Slam. And I think it's very smart if AEW kind of keeps it that way. I know there's a lot of fans in a lot of different towns, and it's going to be a shame because maybe sometimes they won't be able to get to a show. But I think it'll be smart for AEW to kind of keep to those wrestling towns, at least until, you know, their fan base not really comes up, but they have a strong enough fan base to where as though they can travel to a lot of other different cities versus the main popular wrestling towns. But yeah, that Bryan Danielson Kenny Omega match was perfect, and I'm completely fine with them pulling it off this early. This type of feud, you kind of want to jump the gun on it right away, and I'm completely fine with them doing it as non-title. It resulted in a timeout. Like, the match was strong enough to handle something like that. And I will make a parallel between this match and what we saw at Extreme Rules a little bit later. But like I said, the crowd was so into it. Like, they definitely helped as far as keeping up with making it seem like as far as making the match that much more enjoyable. But yeah, that was an amazing match. It really was. And I'm fine with the draw. I had wished that they did it before where they had counted down when it was going to result in a draw instead of them like kind of coming out of nowhere. I heard Justin Roberts say something, but I didn't hear what he said, and then JR mentioned it was only 45 seconds. But I don't think the crowd really noticed it, and then you really couldn't tell that 45 seconds had passed. Next thing you know, the bell rings, and that was that. But I'm fine with the draw. This gives us just a little bit of taste of what's to come. Danielson and Omega can easily do an Iron Man match. Like, straight out pay-per-view main event Iron Man match for the title. I'm happy that it seems like they're not going to break their own rule and have Danielson jump the line to get the title shot, that he has to work his way up, you know, getting the wins like AEW wants, the way that AEW has it, that wins and losses matter. They have this ranking system. No, as good as the feud of Danielson versus Omega is, Danielson got to work the line. He got to get some wins under his belt. Eventually come after whoever would be number 1 and 2, and then he gets his title shot. And I'm fine with seeing that the rise of him getting the title shot, because first of all, we have to address Hangman Page. Hangman Page time is here, and they have to address it sooner than later. Anyway. After that, we had MJF versus Brian Pillman Jr. Let me see. With that one, first of all, MJF is amazing. He's one of the best heels definitely around. He does kind of toe the line a lot, but I'm just going to assume that it was cleared with Brian Pillman, and it was cleared with Darby Allin this week with how he toe the line and really come after the jugular, to draw out the heat. It's not something that we have seen in a while of someone like really like basically crossing the line and be like, yo, that might be a little bit too much. That might be a little close to, too much. It kind of reminds me of with WWE and the whole Jeff Hardy drinking thing. And but I am happy though that Brian Pillman Jr. is getting his time to shine. He's getting over more with the fans than what he was before. And I'm completely fine with that. Then we come to Malachi Black versus Cody Rhodes. First of all, the fact that the fans are completely behind Malachi Black and they are actively booing Cody Rhodes, we are slowly getting this like very slow heel turn out of Cody Rhodes. And it really works because Cody Rhodes started out as one of the biggest baby faces for AEW. And now it seems like he could, if he does it right, he could turn into one of the, not really the best heels, but a really good heel for AEW. First of all, Malachi Black with I don't know if he still calls it the Black Mass. I don't even know what he calls the move now, if it's still called the Black Mass, but Cody Rhodes sells that kick so well. Now we did see a little bit of Cody Rhodes getting upset. Malachi Black was going after Arn Anderson. Cody Rhodes went to check on Arn Anderson, and then Arn Anderson's yelling at him to concentrate on what you're doing, get back in the ring. Cody Rhodes was just so enraged and trying to go after Malachi Black so much that he accidentally hit the ref, and then Malachi Black spit like it was a black mist, I guess, into his face, and then got the win from there. And then we get to this past week where we had the in-ring promo, Arn Anderson admitting that he committed crimes. I wouldn't be surprised if there were some bodies. I feel as though we may see a story about his, of his past on Investigation Discovery or something like that. I won't be surprised he ends up on Law and Order. But, Arn Anderson pretty much dumped Cody Rhodes, calling him a quitter and stuff like that, and saying we not cool anymore. Okay, you gotten soft. I don't know what's going on with you. On top of that, we had the booing for Cody Rhodes. And come on, we know it's coming because Cody Rhodes has been dressing up like Homelander this whole time. You cannot tell me that you dress up as Homelander and you're not going to be slowly turning heel. Not only watch part of the first season, but even I know not to dress up as Homelander because Homelander is not Superman. Okay, let's put it that way in case people haven't watched it. So we also had FTR and versus Sting and Darby Allin. I would just like to know what the hell Sting is on. I just want to know what pill, what juice, workout regimen he is using for him to be in his 60s and move around like that. And then even after the match, he didn't look gassed. Whereas though we had Goldberg who, he walks out of a room and he's already gassed. I'm sitting here, I can barely run around the block without getting gas. And here comes Sting just hanging out, keeping up with the young guys. I really do not understand what that was. He's not human, okay? Let's just put it that way. I wouldn't be surprised if this turns out to be some type of Men in Black situation. And, he's not human. He looked great out there. And then I think he did a no-sell during that match. I don't remember, but I think he did some type of no-sell. Of course, they are definitely setting up the showdown between him and Tully Blanchard, which I don't know if it'll be a fun match or a train wreck, but I'm gonna go with more fun than a train wreck. And then we ended with Britt Baker versus Ruby Soho. Some people felt as though it wasn't the best match, but here's the thing, okay? People are complaining, including myself, about the women's division with AEW, and I really appreciate the fact that they did put this match on as the main event. This is one of the biggest shows that AEW has put out for Dynamite, and they decided to put the women's championship match on last instead of Kenny Omega and Bryan Danielson. Was it a 5-star match? No. Should you expect it to be a 5-star match? No. These, like I had said, with the women's division, they're coming into their own. This is a lot of young talent, a lot of women who haven't wrestled in front of a big audience before, who haven't really dealt with being on TV and promos and, having to do gimmicks and stuff like that. So I'm giving them time. And like I always say, it always feels like there's like some type of misconnect with the women, like whether it's like communication issues or, it feels like something is always lacking from the matches. But I say just give them time. The company is still very new. A lot of these women are all coming together for the first time. So a lot of them do not have that natural chemistry like you would see, for example, Sasha Banks versus Bayley. The chemistry between Sasha Banks and Bayley is crazy. And we're not going to get there just yet. But I feel as though that there is a lot of potential there. Plus, you're also dealing with a lot of different wrestling styles. Women trying to figure out what their wrestling style is as well. And but I am happy for Britt Baker. Like, she's really had come a very long way since AEW has started. I thought for sure she was going to be the first women's AEW champion, but I'm very happy of where she is at right now. It definitely works for her. Ruby Soho, I'm very happy for her. I was a fan of her when she was in NXT, and I was a fan of her when she came up to the main roster. I knew that she wasn't going to be used to her full potential because she's very different from a lot of the women on the main roster. But I'm very happy that she's with AEW. My only thing was that she was featured a lot. But I understand this, whether it's true or not, this whole one women's match on AEW Dynamite, and they, feature them a little more on Rampage and then on the YouTube channels. But you have to agree though, for these two women to not have a lot of time together, Ruby Soho just coming into AEW, they had to get, chemistry down and, what they're going to do on the ring. It was still a good match. It really was. I have to give it to them. And I think this is a bit of a stepping point of where the women can go, in the future. Now, with this past week Dynamite, it wasn't, of course, like I had said, it wasn't as exciting as, Grand Slam was, but that's something that should be expected because it's very hard to keep it up like that. Now, this past Dynamite was very emotional, first of all. This took place in Rochester, which was the home of the late Brody Lee. And I knew that I figured they was going to feature the Dark Order. I really didn't expect for it to be a 16-man tag team match. I don't think Teddy Long has done that big of a tag team match. I understand they wanted all of the Dark Order there, of course, because it's Brody Lee's hometown, and they couldn't really do what they did for his tribute match, where they had each member of the Dark Order in different matches, because they had to do a lot more on the card. But oh my gosh, like, there was a lot of onions in my house during that point. I didn't expect them to bring out -1 first off into the home crowd. Was holding up, all the Brody Lee signs in the world. And a lot of people had speculation of who was going to bring the Dark Order back together. Everybody and their mama and their grandmom and their aunt and uncle was saying Bray Wyatt, even though Bray Wyatt is still in his 90-day clause. Then people were sitting there saying, well, Malachi Black got out of didn't have a 90-day clause. But from what I believe, with NXT, it's only 30 days. So there was a technicality on his contract where he was still under where he still had the NXT clause of, only having a 30-day no compete. Now, if Bray Wyatt is going to show up at AEW, it looks like it's going to be at their next pay-per-view, because I think his contract expires the end of October, which gives them time to either introduce him at the Dynamite before Full Gear, or they're going to introduce him at Full Gear. And that's if he's actually going to go there. Because I nowadays I take rumors with a grain of salt. Because I have talked about rumors, and I did believe, certain people were legitimate, and then come to find out it wasn't. So now I just take rumors as a grain of salt, and when I talk about them, I will mention that, I'm taking it as a grain of salt. But yeah, everybody thought it would be Bray Wyatt that will save the Dark Order. And come to find out, it was Amanda, the widow of Brody Lee, who came out full mama attitude, and told the guys to get it together and come together. And they did. And it was a very emotional moment. The -1 came in, and they all came in for a group hug, along with Tay Conti and Anna Jay, who also wrestled a little later that night as well. And -1 came in for a hug. Very emotional. It was a good ending to this whole breakup. And I'm completely fine with it being Amanda who brings them together. Do they need a leader? Not really. I think that the group can be strong enough to work without a leader, and to be able to just come together and just do everything in honor of Brody Lee. That's all. They don't really need a leader, truthfully. They can survive without one. Now, let's talk about the match of Jungle Boy versus Adam Cole. First of all, I think Adam Cole is over with the crowd. I love his song. Everyone loves his song. We had CM Punk that had came out. Then we had Adam Cole, and then there was Jungle Boy. So the crowd was just singing on the top of their lungs for all three of these men. And I also have to say, too, a 2-hour rampage should not be a thing. I was so tired Friday after watching 2 hours of Smackdown and 2 hours of Rampage. Wrestling being it over at midnight, it was very tiring. But this match between Jungle Boy and Adam Cole was great. I mean, Jungle Boy has such a long career ahead of him, and you can tell that a lot of people respect Jungle Boy. It's just crazy because, like, the craziest thing is that all these people are very young. What tripped me out was Dante Martin, who I didn't know was only 20 years old. I'm sitting here like, he is only 20 years old doing these high-flying moves like I never seen before. Jungle Boy is 24 years old. And it's like, you can still wrestle into your 40s nowadays. We see Sting, who's still wrestling in his 60s. So for these two, for all this young talent to be this good at such a young age, it's going to get better with time. With experience, wrestling different people, you pick up different moves, you change up your move set, you try to figure out what gimmick works best for you. It's just like, think of AJ Styles. People like, someone like AJ Styles. You have people like Kurt Angle. Hell, Trish Stratus. Like, I keep saying how Trish Stratus was not good when she first started. And, as she continued to get experience and got better and better in the ring, and look at her now. Well, not now, but, look at her back in the Attitude Era, how good she got. So it's just like crazy how things are right now with this talent in AEW. I am completely fine with another match between Cole and Jungle Boy. Obviously, it's opened up for it since with this match, Adam Cole gave a low blow in order to defeat Jungle Boy. So it kind of, even though Adam Cole got the win, it kind of puts over Jungle Boy a little more because Adam Cole had to cheat in order to win. And it wasn't like the Elite came in to like interfere or something like that. Adam Cole did something himself in order to get the win. Bryan Danielson coming out to try to challenge Kenny Omega. That was a fun segment. The Kenny no balls and stuff like that. And of course, this is setting up for Danielson to go through each member of the Elite until he leads up to Kenny Omega, which kind of gives me like the Chris Jericho labors, the 5 pillars of labor type of situation. But I'm kind of fine for it because we're going to see matchups that we haven't seen before. And some matchups that we have seen before, like him versus Adam Cole, which we saw during that Smackdown, that crazy Smackdown episode way back when NXT was in Survivor Series. And that matchup is happening next Friday. Or was it this Friday? I think it was this Friday. I think it's this Friday for Rampage. And then let's see, I did talk about the Cody Rhodes situation. Sting coming out once again to wrestle and showing that he is, not a human being. And then we come to the TNT Championship match, Sammy Guevara versus Miro. I'm completely shocked that Sammy Guevara won. I'm not mad about it, but I really liked Miro as he was champion. Now, maybe, I'm hoping that the gimmick he was doing is strong enough for him to continue on, like, without the title. Because sometimes people have a gimmick that's only as strong as long as they have the title. And I think with Miro, I think he can still keep up this Redeemer persona that he has. And, of course, talking about his hot wife and everything. I think he could definitely keep up with that. I don't see any reason why he couldn't. But I'm definitely I was slightly shocked that they gave the title to Sammy Guevara. But I really like how long the title is being held so far in AEW. Yes, you were getting people who had the title for 200 days and all this other stuff. But it's not like it's being played. It's not a hot potato situation going on. And I think I mentioned this in a previous episode. That it's not hot potato, so that when someone wins the title, it actually means something because you kind of hold it for a little longer. It's not that many people who have held the title, so it has more prestige. It kind of reminds me, so when a title is played as hot potato, I used to work at a job where they had the employee of the month, and they always gave the employee of the month to whoever was the newest employee. And it was people who worked there for years, good employees, and never got employee of the month again because it will always go to whoever was the newest employee. So it kind of gives me that vibes whenever a title is hot potato to where, someone can have it 5 times within a year type of situation. it doesn't give it that much prestige because whoever is the champion isn't on top long enough to really be the face of the company, to really have their time to shine, their time to really, increase their stock, I should say. So with Sammy winning the title, I'm definitely happy for him. I actually watch his vlog sometimes on YouTube. It's pretty funny. And I see like how a lot of people that was on there have gotten over with Fuego del Sol. And then once Fuego del Sol came out to like kind of cheer on Sammy Guevara, I kind of figured that they were going to give the title to him, but I still wasn't 100% sure. But I think that I like the fact that the TNT Championship had main evented the show because Brody Lee was the one who was the TNT champion. They redesigned the belt when he had it. So, and on top of that, there is now the foundation for the John Huber Foundation, I believe. Very cool concept. They his widow and his brother had put it together, and it's basically to help out people with when they're trying sorry, that's my daughter on the couch, when they are trying to if you heard that, I should say. And let me I should have gotten the description of the John Huber Foundation. But it's a very unique concept where it helps out people with direct funding, resources, connections, and practical skills. And they will meet, throughout the year to learn from experts about business planning, public relations, artist management, brand management, finances, and IP law. But it's to help people take the next step in their careers. Amanda had mentioned that John Huber almost gave up his dream of wrestling because of his family. He got the call to move up to WWE while he was in the hospital, while they were in the hospital with their first child. And she just wanted to honor his commitment to family and his career with people who are facing the same dilemma. So a very unique foundation. I thought it was a foundation to help out, like, something along with wrestling or something like that. But for it to be something like this, I definitely am like applause to them. AEW released a new Brody Lee shirt, and 100% of those proceeds will go to the foundation. So, getting into Extreme Rules. Now, I have an issue with Extreme Rules. Whenever they do these gimmick type pay-per-views, there is an expectation for you to kind of keep up with things. So with Extreme Rules, they only had one match that had a extreme or anything like that type of stipulation. I'd rather them to change the name to something else, because the Extreme Rules, the Hell in a Cell, the TLC, and everything like that. Let's get rid of those ideas, because it kind of puts an expectation that the whole pay-per-view is nothing but, matches with stipulations. Now, overall, it wasn't a bad pay-per-view. It wasn't. Very weird start. I thought something was completely wrong with my Peacock, because I was hearing like 16 different voices when I turned it on. I definitely heard Michael Cole. I heard the Spanish announcers, and I heard Pat McAfee. So for WWE to spend so much money with this new, Peacock with the WWE Network and all this other stuff, like, I don't know if it was Peacock's end or if it was WWE's end, but come on. Like, seriously. We need to get something together. You need to take at least 1% of that massive budget that you receive from this deal and, figure out your system. And I cannot wait for them to fix up pretty much like the search system for when you want to see a certain pay-per-view, because they have the pay-per-views listed by seasons instead of years. It was a lot easier to find a match on the WWE Network than it is on Peacock. Especially when you just want to check out a match, like if you want to react to something, or if you're like, oh man, let me see this match again. And then you got to sit there and figure out which season relates to what year. It's too much. It's definitely too much. So we started off with Carmella versus Liv Morgan. Liv Morgan got the win here, which, I was fine with. I think this was on the kickoff show. I think. This match didn't last for too long, but I'm happy that Liv Morgan got her win. A lot of people want to see her, them pull off and for her to go after the title. It was on the pre-show. A lot of people want to see her, to go after the title. Maybe, it's not time just yet for that. But I like Liv Morgan. I feel bad for her because she's the only one left out of her friends to still be in WWE. And it feels like they want to do a push with her, but they're just not sure how to do it or when to do it because there's only one title. And right now we have Bianca Belair and Becky Lynch in that feud. And so it's that issue, like I say, with WWE sometimes, that they are unable to, create multiple stars, and that they tend to concentrate mainly on one storyline and versus having multiple storylines. So this match was, fine. I liked that Liv Morgan got the win off of this. So then we had the New Day versus Bobby Lashley, AJ Styles, and Omos. Now, the next night we had Big E versus Bobby Lashley in a cage match, which could have definitely been the match on Extreme Rules, and then we could have had this 6-man tag on Raw. Because obviously Big E is going to stay on Raw because he is the champion. Now, like I say, I cannot wait for when AJ Styles is back to his singles run. Especially if they're going to, with this draft and them calling up people possibly from NXT and everything. I cannot wait for it. Now, Lashley getting upset, and apparently we can say the word shit on Raw now, which on WWE TV, I should say, which was okay. I didn't know that can be done. I thought we were still doing the PG. Like, I remember when the B word would be said and everybody would be like, oh my gosh, they just said bitch. So this match was fine. Big E getting the win, I'm fine with. And then, Bobby Lashley pretty much flipping out. And now we have the reunion of the Hurt Business, which I don't know why they broke up in the first place. They could have definitely had the Hurt Business kind of stay together. I mean, I understand because Bobby Lashley kind of got, to stand on his own and show how much of a powerhouse he is on his own. But they shouldn't have broke up the Hurt Business. But I'm very happy that they're back. I really am. I'm really hoping that WWE doesn't do anything stupid and draft one of them to SmackDown and break them up. So after that, we had the Usos versus the Street Profits. This was a good match. I mean, I'm not surprised about it at all. Because first off, it's the Usos and the Street Profits. I'm still waiting for Uso versus Uso. I am. I know we're not going to get that for a while because we have the bloodline and everything. But oh my gosh, I am waiting for Uso versus Uso. Now people are are suggesting that the Street Profits would be broken up, which I hope doesn't happen. Because Montez Ford and Dawkins they're a really good team together. And I'm going to be 100% honest. If they were to break up, I think Angelo Dawkins will be the one who would get lost in the shuffle. He would be the Tucker of that group, like just completely lost in the shuffle. After that, we had the Raw Women's Championship match, Charlotte Flair versus Alexa Bliss. This was okay. It went kind of the way that you expected it to go, with Charlotte Flair getting the win. It's not really that much. I mean, it's not that much surprising of the finish. The match was good because it told the story, especially at the end with Charlotte tearing up the Lily doll, and you see Alexa Bliss crying and things like that. So maybe we will get a different, character coming, or is she going to put the doll back together, or maybe there's a new doll that pops up. Who knows? But it seems like Alexa Bliss may be off TV for a while as she grieves the loss of her doll. After that, we had the United States Championship, Damian Priest versus Sheamus and Jeff Hardy. I'm going to be 100% honest. I didn't pay attention to this match that much. I forgot what happened. At this point, but I wasn't really 100% paying attention. From the part that I saw, it seemed like a fine match. Damian Priest retaining his title. I would have predicted that was going to happen. I really didn't see any reason for Sheamus to win the title back so quickly, or for Jeff Hardy to win. And then we had the Women's Smackdown Championship, Becky Lynch versus Bianca Belair, which was a good match. The end, we had Mrs. Sasha Banks coming back and coming in to attack Bianca Belair. Becky Lynch is standing there like, we cool too, right? We 4 horsewomen, yay. And Sasha Banks smiled at her and then started to beat her down as well. I'm fine with this type of finish, for it to kind of result in disqualification versus, whatever. Kind of insert Sasha Banks in there, because Sasha Banks is the one who lost her title and the title match afterwards. And so I'm fine with her getting back into the picture. I don't know I don't know if it's going to be Bianca and Sasha that's going to carry on with the feud, or if this is going to be a feud between Bianca, Sasha, and Becky. I guess we will see once we get to SmackDown on Friday. But yeah, Bianca Belair is really good in the ring for the amount of time that she had in the ring. Becky Lynch is Becky Lynch. I see that she's like sort of like the female version of Seth Rollins. I'm just gonna let things play out some more so I can like really see what we are doing with her character. And then Sasha Banks is just Sasha Banks. She's coming back as the boss. We'll see her in the next season of The Mandalorian, which I cannot wait for. And then of course Bianca Belair is amazing. So then we come to the main event, Roman Reigns versus the Demon Finn Balor. And Michael Cole sat there and told us so many times about how the Demon is undefeated and all this other stuff, which I think is not actually true. I believe the Demon was defeated before, I think in NXT actually. Yeah, I think the Demon was defeated down in NXT. Now this was a good match. The crowd was really into it and everything. We had the Usos coming in and interfere in the match, and kind of give that bit of an opening for Roman Reigns to somehow retain, because it is like 3-4 against 1. And then we get to the end of the match where Finn Balor was laid out, and then his music comes on, and he starts like, there was the heartbeat from his music, and then he starts like shaking and like coming back to life, and then he popped up on his feet. Michael Cole was a disaster. I hate it. I hate this thing that they do with Michael Cole where he goes, "Oh my God, is it? What's happening? Is it? Could it be? Oh my God, what is it? What is that? What is that?" Like, I cannot stand it when he does that. Like, obviously, you don't know what's going on. We don't know what's going on. Just let it, just either shut up or just, let things happen. I hate it when he does that because it kind of like ruins the moment. But anyway, then Finn Balor rises up to his feet as the music, starts to play again. The lights turn red, so obviously he no-sold what happened to, the beatdown that he suffered from the Usos. And he starts attacking Roman Reigns. He's he's level 9,000. He's over 9,000 and stuff like that. He throws Roman Reigns in the ring. He goes to climb the rope. The crowd is hyped because they's like, okay, this is how he's going to win the title. He gets to the top of the rope, and then the rope collapses, and he falls down and hurts his knee, and then gets speared, and then 1, 2, 3. I'm just confused because how the music and the lights and everything gave the demon this no-sell like invincibility. It was like he got the star, in Super Mario when you receive the star and you're invincible, right? And you're trying to like hurry up and get to the boss or something like that. And as you're about to get to the boss, the invincibility star wears off, and you run into like one of the Goombas or something. And then the game, and then you die. That's exactly what happened here. I guess this, the invincibility of the demon wore off once he climbed up to the rope, and then the rope breaks, and then the invincibility wore off, and then we get Finn Balor again. Like, I'm not understanding the thinking behind this finish here, and I'm not understanding like who is this for? Like, it couldn't be for, adults who are able to, figure things out and know that 2 + 2 = 4, because we all realize like, hey, the rope broke, he hurt his knee, and that was the end of the demon. It's just, it came off slightly childish, and the whole no-sell thing kind of gets to me. Like, when Sting did it, because Sting went through a table and he no-sold it, and I was like, dude, there's people who went through tables and they got destroyed, and you want us to believe that you went to through a table by FTR, or I think it was 2.0. It was one of them too. And you came out unscathed and okay. Like, I have that problem. And if you wanted to do, now, yes, was the finish unique with the rope breaking? Yes. However, how did the rope break? What type of magical thing happened that the rope break? Now, if you wanted to do the spot with the rope breaking, you could have easily had the Usos do it. You could have easily had Paul Heyman do it, because you want me to believe that the rope broke because Finn Balor was too heavy. Like, Finn Balor only has 2% of body fat, okay? And you want me to believe that the rope broke because he stood on it. And that's the same corner that Sheamus has stood on. And I'm pretty sure if I really watch back Extreme Rules and really pay attention to who went to that corner and climbed on that top rope, I probably would have a lot more names. But I do remember Sheamus had climbed up on top of that rope. And you want me to believe that Finn Balor, who weighs a hell of a lot less than Sheamus, was the one that broke the rope. I would have definitely had went with Paul Heyman breaking the rope. It would have made sense if Paul Heyman was the one to break the rope, because he's trying to prove to Roman Reigns that he is on his side versus Brock Lesnar. He could have easily had done something to take off the rope. We could have had a segment on Friday, or, Roman Reigns being upset that Paul Heyman had interfered, and you would have Paul Heyman, as great as he is whenever he does this. I'm sorry, my tribal chief, I saw that you were in trouble, and I wanted to, make sure that my tribal chief still was champion. Like, we could have did that in a different angle than what we got. It's just slightly frustrating because sometimes WWE has great ideas. It's just like the execution is like, there's no effort in the execution. It's like, okay, we're going to have the rope break. Well, how are we going to have the rope break? Let's just have the music play and the lights and stuff like that. And Finn Balor suddenly comes back to life and he climbs up the rope, and we'll just have the rope break. We'll have the fog, appear from that over on that side, so that when the ropes come down, it'll look like it was magic. Like, who did it? It was magic. Like, it's the execution is not there. Like, it was a good idea of the rope breaking. That's very different, but it would have had a bigger impact if it was Paul Heyman that did it. Like, if there's a pin that Paul Heyman pulls to, take down the rope, it would have been a lot more accepted by people, because there are a lot of people who were very upset at this finish, because it was a good match. It's just like that finish was just like, it was very flat, I should say. And like I said, had we had Paul Heyman pull the pin on that ring post, and then had the that top rope fall down, you didn't even have to do the music and heartbeat and all that other stuff, because the Demon can do something like that without music. You want us to believe it's just like the whole old school Undertaker with the power of the urn. That's basically what they just did in 2021. You want us to believe that the Demon's power come from his music and lights. I don't know. Maybe too overly hype about it. Overall, it was a good pay-per-view. It's just because of that finish, it just left a bad taste in a lot of people's mouth. Getting to NXT 2.0. Now, my first impression from the first week, I was like, it's definitely fresh, completely different from the original NXT. Now, here's the problem. And if they did all this switching around because of the ratings, I really don't think it's very smart to decide, okay, we're going to completely make this developmental, because the ratings will drop a little bit more. Obviously, you're bringing in a whole new bunch of fresh faces. The people who are on the top of the mountain will eventually get called up to the main roster, it's going to feel like. And we're going to be stuck with a lot of people who we're not connected to. You're not giving us a reason to really care about said people. And, we're not able to really connect with people, because we're just getting thrown with, like, all these new faces. Like, this person, this person, this person. Now, mind you, there are some people who are definitely going to shine in NXT 2.0, but it's just like, it's all just, people are reluctant to change, but this is like complete new makeover. This is like moving into the middle of nowhere with no clothes, no money, no car. You just, you're in a van, and they just push you out of the van, and you're sitting in the middle of nowhere. That's slightly what this NXT 2.0 feels like. It's a lot of people who I'm like, okay, who's this person? All right, who's that person? And it's like, okay, what's this? Why do we care about this? Who's this guy again? why this guy gets a title shot. Now, I like Braun Breaker. He definitely gives me his dad and uncle's vibes. The promo that he cut last Tuesday, I can hear his uncle. I can hear his uncle when he gave that promo. Like, if you close your eyes and really listen to it, you can definitely hear Scott Steiner. Now, as far as the quality of promos, I think Braun Breaker will be a lot better than his uncle as far as the delivery. I don't think we're going to hear about any mathematics in his promos or anything like that. But he reminds me of the Steiners mixed in with like Mojo Rawley, because he is like, the sugar rush is real. And then on top of that, like, I've been watching for the past 2 weeks, and it's like, you really want me to, now I heard the rumor that, Triple H and HBK are still like main writers, I think, or something like that, or they still have some type of control with NXT 2.0. But you cannot tell me the rumor about, Vince McMahon and Bruce Pritchard and Kevin Dunn not having their hands in NXT 2.0. You cannot tell me that is not true. There are elements, there are elements in NXT 2.0 that definitely reflects Raw, especially with, oh my gosh, I forgot the guy's name. He was sitting in the middle of the ring in a chair cutting a promo, and it felt like, now I think his name was like Joe Gracie or something like that. They had to cut him off of social media apparently because he came across like, I don't know, like it felt like he was attacking like woke culture or cancel culture or something with some of the things he was saying. But he kept saying how the ring is a safe place, which makes no sense whatsoever because it's a wrestling ring. And he mentioned about how he's like going to, not fight or like deal with violence, but he's going to try to find like other ways to, I don't know. But I'm sitting here like, you're cutting this promo, but the thing I'm not understanding is you're a wrestler. You are here because you're wrestling. You're fighting other people. And oh my gosh, like, NXT before had promos, but this NXT 2.0 was promo heavy. There were more promos than it was wrestling. First of all, Tony D'Angelo, I cannot wait to see Mr. Chicago with the accent like he stepped fresh out of New York. I'm interested to see what that's going on. Chase U with that vignette of him dropping F-bombs and stuff like that. It was a lot of like, especially not this week, but last week, where they had the new faces in the ring and they had Tommaso Ciampa coming in and cutting promos and stuff like that. And then of course, we had people walking out to challenge different people. If you ever watch Mortal Kombat Annihilation, there's this scene where there's a face down between, Shao Kahn and his crew versus Liu Kang and his crew, and like Sindel. What they each like cut a mini one-liner to each other. That's what that segment felt like. I directly got those feelings from that segment. And then this week we had no DQ match between B-Fab from Hit Row and Elektra Lopez from Legado del Fantasma. First of all, I love Elektra Lopez's entrance look with the hat, the Carmen Sandiego hat and her jacket, and I like her music too. Unfortunately, see, the thing is with developmental, you have, because of all these new faces, you have a lot of people who are not developed in the ring. And for this to be no DQ on paper, this is a good feud. These two women have a lot of issues with each other. You know, it's like two pit bulls, you know, coming to bark each other. You've seen it on TikTok where two dogs are like barking at each other very aggressively. And then you open up the fence and then they just stand there and look at each other. It's like, oh, what's up? Oh, hey. That's what this kind of felt like. It was a lot of, like, the action wasn't fluent. The women definitely have more to learn in the ring, and this is developmental. And so I'm not sure, like, within the next 2 years, I would say, you know, NXT maybe will be back up to the way it is. But it seems like if for them to, you know, say this is developmental, it's so much with NXT 2.0. My thing is, for us to get used to these new faces, watch them get developed, what happens when these NXT 2.0 people go to the main roster? Is it going to be the same thing, whereas though there is a connection with these people in NXT 2.0, and then all of a sudden the name changes, different gimmicks, you know, lost in the shuffle, immediate, doesn't really get, you know, doesn't get pushed, not, you know, losing matches and stuff like that. Like, you kind of get hesitant of being emotionally involved with some of these wrestlers because of what's coming for them at the end of the road. Now, but this match should have been good, but it wasn't there. Of course, the women, they have a lot more to go. And so this is kind of like what happens with situations like that. Then we had Joe Gacy talking again. He mentioned how the ring is a safe space. And I'm like, I'm not understanding what is going on. I don't know. Like, I'm not connecting with that character at all. Let's see. We also had from NXT Tag Team Championships, Zoe Stark versus Io Shirai versus Toxic Attraction, which is definitely, like, you know, of course, getting pushed very hard, especially Mandy Rose. I find it very interesting during their entrance. It's the three of them, but when they walk down, the camera immediately pans, you know, tight zoom in to Mandy Rose. Even though this toxic attraction is three women, it seems like the attention is only on one. Now, I'm not complaining about the tight zoom in on Mandy Rose, but this is a faction. I would like to see it'll be nice, you know, for the other two women to get a bit of camera time. Like, I feel like we may be definitely leading to a breakup with these three, with Mandy Rose getting like all the camera time. But I like this faction. It wasn't that many female factions in NXT. It was always tag teams and stuff like that, but not really a 3-4 women type of faction that we had going on. I mean, that's pretty much the gist as far as with NXT 2.0. I just don't know how long this is going to last. I'm very interested to see how this will all pan out, maybe in like 6 months to a year of where we would be. Maybe, you know, this will get a lot better. But with all the fresh faces, I don't know. It's just, you're not really, it's kind of hard to connect to every single segment because sometimes it just doesn't make sense. So this week we have the WWE draft this Friday on Smackdown and then finishing on Raw. According to the rumors, the main people are already been selected. Everything else is kind of up in the air. The networks apparently are more involved this time. Of course, Fox not being very happy with WWE. They apparently weren't happy with WWE advertising the WWE Peacock on their network, of course, which is owned by NBC, which is competition of Fox. And I'm sure USA is not happy because Fox has more star power than they do with Brock Lesnar and Roman Reigns and Sasha Banks and Becky Lynch and Bianca Belair. So, well, now they have the New Day back. But as far as who will go where, well, obviously I think Drew McIntyre will go to SmackDown. WWE kind of like let that cat out of the bag by showing for a future event, I forgot where, but it was advertised of Drew McIntyre versus Roman Reigns, which of course is subject to change. Like, I have a lanyard for WrestleMania 30 of The Rock versus Brock Lesnar. So card is definitely subject to change. Kind of take that with a grain of salt. But I definitely see Drew McIntyre going to SmackDown. Maybe AJ Styles to SmackDown as well. Naturally, normally they switch the IC and United States titles. So maybe Nakamura goes to Raw, Damian Priest goes to SmackDown. They sometimes do that. They love to break up a tag team. People think that's going to be the Street Profits, which I hope it isn't. I'm going to assume that they're going to keep the New Day together. That would be a very smart idea if they do that. Let's see. They could put maybe Nia Jax to SmackDown. Let's see. Well, Shayna Baszler can go to SmackDown, that's for sure. I think Charlotte Flair would definitely stay where she's at. Maybe Alexa Bliss goes to SmackDown, who knows. As far as who would go from SmackDown to Raw, I could see Chad Gable and Otis going to SmackDown. Maybe split up Dolph Ziggler and Robert Roode and have one of them to go to Raw. I could see Seth Rollins maybe going to Raw. Who knows? I don't think they're going to move Brock Lesnar. He definitely has to work on the feud between him and Roman Reigns, unless they're going to do what they've been doing for a very, very long time and save that for Mania, in which Brock Lesnar will move over to Raw until WrestleMania season, and then we go from there. As far as women, I can see Carmella going over to Raw. Maybe even Liv Morgan or Natalya. I think Sasha Banks stay where she is to kind of work on the storyline between her and Bianca Belair and Becky Lynch. Let's see. As far as NXT people, I mean, the people who I thought would be called up are champions. Maybe they call up, well, they called up Johnny Gargano before. I hope they don't call him up because I really do like the storyline with him, Candice, and the Way. I say Drake Maverick officially gets called up. Maybe Cameron Grimes. He seems like the type of character that they would like to have on the main roster. Let's see. I see Kushida going up to the main roster, which I hope they don't. Maybe LA Knight. LA Knight definitely has the personality of him for him to be on the main roster. They could do Pete Dunne going up to the main roster. I just have a feeling that it's going to be a lot of the original NXT people that will get called up. I don't think any of the newer 2.0 people will get called up because they want to keep NXT 2.0 quote unquote fresh. But it is interesting with Tommaso Ciampa winning the title. He will pass it off and then eventually go up to the main roster. But I see Pete Dunne maybe going up to the main roster. Maybe LA Knight, Kyle O'Reilly, Kushida. Maybe Johnny Gargano, but I'm hoping that he stays in NXT. Let's see. As far as women, I think Io Shirai should stay where the hell she is at. I don't want her going up to the main roster. I do not want her going up to the main roster. Maybe Scarlett gets called up since Karrion Kross was called up. Let's see. I think Xia Li is still injured. Io Shirai, like I said, needs to stay where the hell she is at. Maybe they'll do Candice LeRae, call her up, even though she is on maternity leave. I see Aaliyah being called up. I did hear that she was doing some dark matches. Maybe they break up the tag team of Kayden Carter and Casey Catanzaro and have one of them going up to the main roster. Probably Casey going up to the main roster. We will see. I don't think they're going to pull anybody from NXT UK. That would be a big surprise if they do that. Yeah. Maybe they'll put Edge on Raw. Who knows? I think he's out of action right now anyway. But yeah, I think it's going to be a very interesting draft. I'm interested to see where everybody's going to go. And I'm very interested to see who will get called up from NXT as well to go to the main roster, because that's always a interesting situation of who gets called up from NXT and where they're going to go and everything. But we will see. We will see. That's it for the Wrestlebread podcast. Thank you so much for listening. Let me give some shout outs. Shout out to Julian Rob Bates from Wrestling Court Podcast and AttertiveMinds.com. Keita and Jay from the Keita and Jay Show, who just celebrated an anniversary. So shout out definitely to them. Chris Akita from We Talk Next Podcast, which is featured on the Keita and Jay Show. Nando and Larry from Half K Podcast. Devin Hafiz from Clark Street Wrestling. Shout out to Straight Talk Wrestling, Circle of Debate, and Top Rope Wrestling as well. Coming up next week, I will be going over what happened in the draft. I'm still up in the air about going to Dynamite when it comes to Philly. It's going to be some interesting matches, of course, but I'm still up in the air about it. I just don't know if I'm gonna go, especially with them. I forgot that they tape Rampage after Dynamite, and so I will be getting back late. Then it's like, if I go, who I go with, and stuff like that. Getting back home, what time you get home, and then having to work tomorrow. I might just take a little bit of time off and just not go in the morning. I don't know. It's all up in the air. You'll find out. You can find out by following me on Twitter. You can follow me at JDC137. That's JAYDEEC137. You can also find me on Instagram as well. You can find me on TikTok. And you can find me on Twitch. I stream on Twitch on Tuesdays and Saturdays starting at 9 to 9:30. This Saturday, I will be playing some more Ghost of Tsushima. Tuesdays, right now, is Fall Guys and maybe some Battlefront, even though I may start a different game. But who knows? But yeah, I kind of started streaming about a month now, and it's plenty of fun, so be sure to follow me over there. You can also find the podcast on Twitter at Wrestlebread. You can also find the podcast on, click the links in either of the profiles of me or the podcast. You will find the link to the podcast Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube, which I keep saying I'm going to work on. I actually had the intention of recording some stuff last weekend that didn't work out. So hopefully, fingers crossed, I'll be able to put out some content this weekend. Let me know your thoughts of how you feel about NXT 2.0, how you feel about Extreme Rules with what's going on with AEW. Hey, you can even talk to me about football, go Cowboys, yeah. Video games, of course, and whatever the hell else is going on. So, thank you so much, and until next time, guys, peace.